Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to ANN American News Network. I'm your host, Vlad. We have a special guest with us today, Sharona, also known as America's Mom. Now, really quickly, I met her at America Fest. She works with Michael Lindell. She's part of the Frank Speech program. You have your program every day, right? Around noon, I believe.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Mountain, and noon Pacific.
And that's at frankspeech.com.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, she knows what's going on with Michael Lindell's. He's going from county to county trying to get the machines removed right before the election. And we know Michael Lindell is fighting for election integrity in this country. That is why they canceled him from all the big stores. They canceled him even from Fox News. So before we start talking about that, ladies and gentlemen, support Sharona. All the links to all of her Twitter, Frank Speech, everything is going to be down below in the description. And let's get right into that. That is exactly what I want to talk about today is where is Mike standing right now with all the lawsuits and fighting to get these, Chinese controlled machines. Where are we today as a nation and in that progress?
Well, I want to remind everybody. I love your opening, and Vlad, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your family, your crew today. This is awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for the great work you're doing. You know firsthand what communism looks like, and we are trying so hard in this country to save it. But I've said from very early on, I realized that it was the real immigrants that came here legally to America who were probably going to be the ones responsible for saving this country. So thank you for all the great work that you do, and it is necessary, it's imperative, and it's critical. So thank you. I think it's important to kind of look back and see that Mike Lindell was the media darling. Even as late as 2019, everyone wanted to interview him, wanted to talk with him, wanted to be around him, wanted to check from him. Everybody was on board with Mike Lindell. You remember the Rose Garden ceremony in 2017, where Mike never had been political, but definitely understood that American manufacturing is necessary for this country to survive. We have to have American manufacturing, and President Trump had done a press conference about American manufacturing, and that's how we save this country. So it's been pretty incredible to watch the decline and watch people for 21 and 22 distance themselves from Mike and watch as his company tanked horribly due to cancellation, to blacklisting. 85% of the CEOs in this country are owned by BlackRock. They are part of the DEI crew and certainly a part of the agenda of the globalists and the Obama administration / Biden. And that's what they're doing, is they are trying to remove the lamp. They're trying to remove the light from this world, which is America. And Mike Lindell encompassed that. He used his resources. We always tell people, as regular, everyday, ordinary citizens, we're always like, if you have means, you should be using those to save your country. Why aren't you stepping up? Why aren't you doing what's right? And Mike Lindell did that. He has used all of his personal wealth. He has used his name, his reputation, to lend credibility to the movement to remove the machines from our voting platforms, period. And there's many reasons why. The most important one right out the gate is that President Trump wrote an executive order stating that we could not have any critical infrastructure that was from any of our adversarial countries like China. And critical infrastructure includes our electronic voting machines, every single one of them, whether they're counting ballots or they're processing ballots or processing names or sending the information upline to the Secretary of State or to Eric reporting. Or Edison reporting. It doesn't matter. All of that infrastructure is supposed to be made in America, or at least made by our allies. And that is not the case as you described. All of our electronic voting machines in this country, the critical pieces, the motherboards, are made and manufactured in China. And as in the state that I came from, Colorado, in Mesa County reports 1, 2, and 3 that actually were able to assess the internal workings by doing a forensic image of the machines, the Dominion voting machines. They assessed no less than 36 Bluetooth modems inside that machine, and they absolutely were connected to the internet, which is against the law. So not only are they made from China, not only are they not, quote, air gapped, which is a critical word for listeners to know. Air gapped means that the machine has no capability to go online. That is not true. All of them go online. All of them. And 2 weeks ago in the Georgia case that we're all watching right now, Judge Amy Klobuchar, I think is how you say her name, she actually had J.R. Holderman, a professor, a liberal left-leaning Democrat professor, performed right there in front of her with a pen, hacking into the Dominion voting system, which is to pen, and was able to actually change the votes at the same time right there in front of her. So at this point, it's just ludicrous to say that it's not the machines. Fundamentally, we're breaking the laws. And the laws say no critical infrastructure can be made by our enemies. So that's number one. Secondly, they've not been properly certified. The state constitutions have certification process along with federal law. And none of those processes are happening, and they haven't happened for years. That has been the basis of many of the cases that we've brought forward to have injunctions on the machines, which means you can't use them. It's like a recall. It's like a recall of the machines because they don't meet standards, right? And none of these voting machines meet standards. When you look back at what happened in Arizona, you're telling me people thought that 243 machines coming down at the same time was not something to be concerned about. It wasn't a quality issue. It wasn't a standard issue. At the very least, there should have been a reaction by the right and the left saying, we can no longer use these machines because they're not reliable and they're not dependable and they don't work properly when we need them to. But the left is so entrenched in stealing these elections right now that they cannot see at all past wanting to win, wanting to have the power and the control. And I say that knowing full well it was the Republicans under the Bush administration that first implemented this algorithm that began stealing elections in the 2000 election with Al Gore and Bush. Clint Curtis, and you probably heard that name a little bit. Clint Curtis was a Republican. He actually created the algorithm that would flip votes. And when he saw the pattern of the Bush-Gore election in Florida, he knew they had used it, not stolen, because he did make it for them, but he knew they had used his algorithm. He is now very vocally and loudly, he switched parties, by the way. He's been a Democrat now for 23 years, and he has been very publicly saying they are using the machines to steal elections. So now the left is doing it, the right's been doing it, and it has to stop. And that has been Mike Lindell's primary message, is this is not a right or left issue anymore. This is an American issue. If people want to vote for Democrats, fine. We just want true and transparent elections, and we are not getting those. That's not happening in America from the lowest levels, the school board races, which are the most important races actually, and county commissioner races, to city council, and then of course the federal national elections. So it's really important that people understand these machines are not lawful to use. They're made in China. And the people who created the algorithms that are being used in them have come forward publicly, testified in Congress, testified in court multiple times. Clint Curtis has testified in our injunction cases repeatedly in Arizona and Wisconsin, tried in Colorado, but Colorado won't even hear the cases. Yeah. Many of these judges are just saying they're dismissing the case without prejudice, which means they just don't want to hear it, but maybe some other judge will pick it up. That's what it means when they say without prejudice. So, we've got a bunch of cowards working in the most important positions in America. And if we don't get some people with a backbone like Mike Lindell, we're in trouble. It really is dependent at this point in history, as it has been over and over and over, for the regular citizenry to find unbelievable courage and to exercise that courage now, to be loud, to be vocal, to take a stand, and to be willing to risk, just as we've seen other leaders do, they're risking prison. They're risking obviously having everything taken from them. We see that with Peter Navarro. We see that with Steve Bannon. All of those people are facing jail time. I hope your listeners understand. They are all of them have been sued. All of them are facing criminal charges. All of them are looking at long jail sentences right now. And why? Because they're talking about elections.
Yeah, it's very interesting where we are. What you said is we have, and 100% correct, we have a lot of very weak people that are holding very powerful positions. And if you look at many of these people, they ran for office for a paycheck. Most of them went in like very poor. They had no money, and then they go in and they become millionaires. Now, my issue is I think that number one, we need to make sure that we have term limits for Congress, for Senate. But two, you gotta have a good net worth before you go in. That's my opinion. You know, not a lot of people agree with that, but I don't think people who like Joe Biden, when he was in the Senate, his net worth was $29,000, right? So then he becomes a multi-millionaire from being, you know, in the Senate to vice president, now president, right? He used his position to make money. Donald Trump, you can't buy him. It's not, he's not a radical. Everyone knows that. Let's look at his policies, compare him to Bush, Obama. He's not radical. He's not extreme. He just can't be controlled. He doesn't need your money. And that's what they fear the most. People who have a higher power and are financially take care of themselves, build a business. Like Mike Lindell. It's interesting. The first time I ever even heard of Mike Lindell, like I wasn't into politics until election night 2020. I always liked Trump. You know, when he ran in 2015, I was like, man, that everyone's like, no, you know, because they believed the media. I didn't. I just liked him. Me and him, like our characters are very similar, very hard-headed. I say what I think. And so, but then when I was watching the election night, I was like, what is happening? This is not normal. I trusted the system. But then, like, I think maybe like end of December, I see this video on Twitter, some guy in a private jet, and it was Mike Lindell. He's like, what I'm holding in my hand, I'm flying to the White House right now. And that's when they took pictures of him saying he wants martial law. Yeah, that's how but the conviction on his face told me he's telling the truth.
Oh, 100%. Listen, this guy was not political. You know, Mike Lindell has made he has not hidden his past in any way, shape, or form. You can read all about it in his book, which, by the way, I could not put down. It is an incredible book. He was a crack addict for years. He began My Pillow as a crack addict. He was running the starts of $1 million organization as a crack addict. He's had a conversion to Jesus Christ, and his life changed dramatically. And then he's just grown and grown and grown from there. This was about American manufacturing. This was about making America great again, because every person in America should want their country to be the greatest. I believe in American exceptionalism. Everybody who lives in their own country should believe their country is the best and then make it the best. And that's what we think about America. And that's what Mike Lindell thinks about America. So the martial law paper that he tells that story, that was actually documents that were given to him by an attorney to bring to the president that would provide a door for recalling the electors, which is completely constitutional. And Mike Pence is the one who decided not to do that. He made that decision. It was within his rights, and the Constitution allowed for that. And he chose not to. He definitely chose the coward's way out, the easy way out, so that he could continue to line his pockets. I actually want to weigh in a little bit what you said about the things that could clean up Congress just a little bit. People of means, I mean, it used to be actually in the founding of the country that you had to be a business owner or a landowner in order to run for office. And that's because you were more vested. You had a personal stock in what was happening, and you weren't just some schmo off the street, and you already understood that if you don't eat, you don't work, you don't eat. And I think that was a great principle to have. I'm not sure how I think about that just now, but one thing I could say is decentralizing. Congressmen and women, there's not enough of them in the states, so they feel very special. It's supposed to be a congressman or woman for over 150,000 people, and clearly that's not happening. They literally roll a red carpet out for the congressmen and women when they come to Washington, D.C., which is absolutely disgusting, because they're supposed to be servants. What they should do is be bringing citizens with them to wash their feet at the House of the People. But that's not what's happening. They treat them like royalty. They start to believe they're royalty, and then they start joining the club, the swamp that you and I are not a part of. And we've heard so much about that swamp the last couple of weeks. James O'Keefe right now is revealing it on a whole nother level right now. But decentralizing, bringing the congressmen and women back to their states, not having them meet in Washington, D.C. Maybe they need to be there once or twice a year is all, but they should be serving from their district, not in Washington, D.C. We now have Zoom. We now can do this. They have StreamYard. We can do all these things now where you can meet from your office rather than being there in the swamp and being manipulated and blackmailed and bribed in Washington, D.C. It is called the swamp for a reason. There's no accountability there. That would be massive. I'm not a huge fan of term limits, believe it or not. I do think people need to see what their people are doing and whether or not they need to be, if they do need to be ran against. But when we do have great people in office and they are forced out by term limits, which some states do have term limits. So I've heard both sides of it for sure. It's just when the people get tired of it. When the people get tired of their representation, they have an obligation to find someone else to run against that person they're tired of and put someone else up. And that's the obligation and duty of the body, the citizenry. So we have that job to do. So I'm not a huge fan of term limits, believe it or not. And I've changed on that. I used to be a term limit person, but I'm kind of in limbo about that now. When it comes to Mike Lindell and the mission of what we're doing right now, getting rid of the electronic voting machines in every county in America. First of all, I want your public to know we only have 3,143 counties in America. That's it. I've heard some super smart people throwing numbers around like 30,000, 40,000 counties. And if I believed that, then I would think this was an insurmountable task and we couldn't possibly do it, but it's not. We only have 3,143 counties. The majority of those counties went to President Trump in 2020. By the way, Biden only won in the big cities where it was easy to cheat and steal and, do all the things that they did to steal the election. The majority of American counties went to President Trump. Yeah. And so that tells me the majority is with President Trump. The majority is with us. 80%, according to the Rasmussen poll, do not trust the electronic voting machines, do not trust our our election process. Now, they trust the electoral process, not the election process. And so clearly, if the people are feeling that they can't trust it, they don't want to participate in it. And what we're saying is, oh, no. You have to participate like you've never participated before. You actually have to show up now because your county needs to be secure. You can't do a lot on a national level that's overwhelming. I think media, social media, MSM, even a lot of the talking heads are there to make you feel overwhelmed and like, we're all going to die and there's nothing you can do about it. That is just so far from the truth. You have incredible power and potential in your own county. And what we need right now from the American public is for them to take serious their responsibility in their own county to move to end the use of electronic voting machines. And I want your listeners to know they can go to Lindell Plan. It's Lindell plan.com. And actually, we have an incredible network there. We have all the resources and tools for you to print out, take to your clerks, help you navigate this conversation to get the machines out while you build your people with you to help support and get this done. Paper ballot hand count, obviously, is what we are all about. And we have those procedures written. We've already done them in multiple states. In multiple states across the union, we have counties that are already going to go to hand count. Now, here's the thing about it. People want to know all the details. They want to know what clerks have switched to hand counting. At first, we were doing that. We were alerting the public every time a clerk was switching out of the machines and to paper ballot hand count. And then Project Democracy, who funded the lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, Mike Lindell, all of those people, Project Democracy would weaponize their attorneys to go after those clerks and sue them. And then, of course, that changes public opinion, right? They don't want to waste money on legal fees and all that. And it's not a big deal. Let's just use the machines. And so we stopped talking about the specific counties, but the ones we can share that are already embroiled in their lawsuits and recalls, by the way, the left has gone after them to recall them, is Shasta County in California and the incredible courage of Kevin Cry. Kevin Cry actually was a sponsor for Ninja Warrior. And I should have known when I first met him. CEO, right? Just like Mike Lindell getting stuff done. Mike Lindell's done more to expose election fraud in 2.5 years because he is a businessman and a CEO and can stay focused on one mission than any of these organizations that have been around for 40 years. In 2.5 years' time, he's made it popular to talk about getting rid of the machines, popular to talk about election fraud, and popular to talk about taking our country back. Yeah. I mean, that's been Mike Lindell's job. It's what he's done. He's so effective. It's unbelievable. But Kevin Cry, same kind of situation. You got a CEO who understands this isn't right. And he's read the Constitution. He knows that people have the power. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch what's happening there. I just got word over the week that the election clerk, who has been a Democrat talking head, manipulating the elections in Shasta County and surrounding counties, because she's a Democrat darling there for decades now. Decades she's been in her position, is resigning. And so, you just keep working at it. And she threw a lawsuit at Kevin Cry. She got a recall started against him, which is still in process right now. And yet they're going to win. They're going to win. And then in Texas, we have over 70 counties that are participating in paper ballot hand count elections for November already. We have counties in Wisconsin. We have Missouri, where the hand count was formally done in a county there. The paper ballot hand count actually took the same amount of time as the electronic voting machines to count. But the electronic voting machine people had to be there all day long to get the machines ready and do all this, pretend testing and stuff they do. Whereas the paper ballot hand counters showed up at 3 p.m., got ready and waited for the ballots to start coming in. So it was a smoother process. It's available for everybody to go print off. You'll need to make adjustments based on your own state laws. But the count process itself is absolutely beautiful. It's first class. And here's the thing. For people who say this always is a frequently asked question, what if you have millions of people? Well, we do precinct level counting. And if you're doing precinct county voting and counting, you're never going to have more than 480 people. That is the low average of people in a precinct. You can count 480 ballots, can't you?
Yeah.
You can do that. And here's the thing. They just did it in Taiwan with 26 million people. Paper ballot hand count election done in one day. Yeah. And guess who's mad as hell about that? The CCP, because they did not win that election. Their candidate did not win because they did not use machines. They used their hands to count. Yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? Going back to just a paper ballot hand count election. And then, of course, you've seen the other Argentina, incredible victory there for the people. If you continue to use the machines, you're going to continue to see selections of candidates who represent the NWO, the global push to remove America's lamp. And so if you want to be in that camp, then do nothing and let this just continue the way that it's happening. But if you want to preserve a future, if you want all boats to rise, which they do with America at the helm, if you want your children to grow up with liberty and freedom in a constitutional republic, you have to fight now. Now we're out of time. We have 10 months until the 2024 election, but the reality is we have more like 8 months to secure these election platforms. So we need all hands on deck. We need people talking about this, not shying away from it, not switching on their Netflix subscription. You know, we need people focused right now. We have got to work together to save our country.
Yeah. And one last question, right? What the way you see the wave going, Trump's popularity, even what you just said, and this, James O'Keefe, watching, that undercover interview, the guy came out and with a sad face, admitted Biden and Kamala are going to be the nominees. And Michelle Obama was confronted about it, and she said no. But you could tell even he was like, it sucks, but, and I think he was in a position where he knows enough where he could have said no or yes. I mean, he said all the other stuff. But what is your personal prediction for the outcome of the election?
I don't think he knows as much as he thinks he knows. I think that's fine that he said that, but I think we're looking at a Newsom Obama ticket, and they'll find a way to do it. I think Biden's decline has just been too significant. It could be that there's a Kamala Newsom, but I just don't think so. He's very honest in that conversation, and we've heard whisperings of this for a long time. Kamala, you might remember in the primary, Kamala never acquired more than 5% of the vote ever. She is the least popular candidate that was on the ballot, the least popular. And it literally is only identity politics that she's even in that seat. Nobody likes her. Nobody. No woman likes her. No black person likes her. No white person likes her. Nobody likes her. And I think it's going to run its course because now we're entering into World War III with Iran. We've got Israel happening. I think that at some point, somebody in there, whether it's John Podesta, who's disgusting as heck, but even he has a little bit of political sense, and Hillary Clinton, who's still pulling the levers behind there, they don't get along either. Kamala and Clinton don't get along. So I cannot imagine for 1 minute that they're going to allow Kamala to take the presidency. I don't believe it for a second. She's just such an unlikable person, more than Hillary Clinton even. So no, I predict a Newsom Obama ticket. The other day on Instagram, I saw they were sending out polls asking people's thoughts on Michelle Obama for president. So obviously they're putting out feelers to see what people think and where they stand. And consequently, I did read the comments, and Big Mike was not popular. I'll just put it that way. But who knows? Who knows? It doesn't matter to them because they are prepared to steal this election every single way they can. Look what they've done. You realize that every illegal that's coming across the border is given a number, and they will be voting in the election. All the Democrats who have left the Democrat Party because of the insanity of mutilation of children, overreach of government, war, all these things, Democrats are leaving that party in droves because they've freaking lost their minds. I mean, RFK be switching to independent is that is a good analysis of what's happening in America. RFK is very close to the people. That guy is approachable. You can call him, you can connect with him. He's very close to the people. He didn't make that decision willy-nilly. So I'm curious about what's going to happen there, because he will swing a large percentage his way. Trump's, I think Trump's the favored one, obviously, but I also know these guys, you know how it is when you're in the death throes, they're going to do everything they can to stay in power. That you've had so many of these people talking very lightly about, about assassination. Yeah. And I'm not going to talk about that too much more than that, because I believe in the power of what we speak, but they are saying those things, and it's not beyond them. They're disgusting. They're apprehensible. You've seen these interviews with O'Keefe and how very indifferent they are to the true suffering of American people in this country. And these illegals that they're allowing, to the tune of 22 million people who will be voting in the next election, that's more than you need to sway an election. So I don't think Biden's going to make it. Nobody likes Kamala. They're feeling out for Michelle, and Gavin Newsom really wants to be president.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your insight. Maybe we'll have you back on in a few weeks. You get an update on where we stand.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, down below in the description, all the links to Sharon, all her social media, the website on how the information, how you can get involved. Go check it out. Get involved. Let's save America.
Appreciate you. Thank you.